All right. Welcome back. So great. And I have somebody from India that can't make it. They said they sent me this. I wanted to share it with you because I'm just so proud. Namaste, Forest G. I'm sorry I will not be able to attend. Please take care. I continue to meditate and feel the higher self. Sometimes the tranquil breath comes so fast I am unable to do even Mahamudra. I have been doing Om Japa even in the tranquil breath separately near each chakra, and that appears to be helping. I'm so thankful to Babaji for leading me to you. I wanted to share that. That's so beautiful. Can't even finish the Mahamudra, and the tranquil breath comes. And she knows even if I'm in the tranquil breath, I can keep doing the Om Japa, and that will help me to go even deeper. Really, really amazing. So wanted to share that this morning. Beautiful. Isn't that great? Now, by the way, if this is your first time, there is a little chat icon on the bottom right of your screen. So if you want to click that, then you can put in anything, or you can just speak up at any time and ask a question. So John says, hi, Forrest, what happens to the yogi when they leave the physical body? Do they reincarnate? Is it dependent on the progress they have made in their sadhana? Must we be self-realized? Maybe I should, hopefully I think everybody's about now. Okay, let me try that again. What happens to the yogi when they leave the physical body? Do they reincarnate? Is it dependent on the progress they have made in their sadhana? Must we be self-realized and enlightened in order to escape the cycle of samsara? Thanks as always. Yes, that's right. So you have it correctly. So there's a huge blessing to doing yoga. There's a huge blessing in going deep within yourself. And so what you tend to see in the life of a yogi, and I think there's a lot of people here that can attest to that in their own lives, that there were a lot of blessings that came along in their life that led them to meditation. And so it's the deeper and the farther you go and the more cleaning that we do, the heavier that blessing becomes. And so if the yogi doesn't make it all the way into the Dharma Mega in one life, then the next life is extremely blessed and you're drawn right back to it very quickly. And that can show up in many ways. It might be a father or a mother that is intensely interested in meditation, and it give you that information very early, or it might be an uncle, or it might be a book that you read, and that's it. So there's definitely, I think, or my goodness, we did that wonderful interview with Diane. She was born with a brain that allowed profound and deep right brain access. So that's beyond a normal blessing. That's a yogi. So the yogis would say this is somebody who was already finished or right on the edge of being completely finished and reborn, and then boom, you're born with that kind of access. So there's a heavy blessing that falls on the very young yogi. And that doesn't mean that life stops being hard. It just means that there's a wonderful and heavy blessing on top of it. And I can attest to that from talking to hundreds and hundreds of yogis, that they see, it takes a while sometimes. But you get into the meditation, you get into the yoga, you start going deep, and you look back on your life and you go, oh my God, I can see how that allowed this, and this allowed that, and that allowed this, and here I am. And you start to see the blessing on your life that led you to where you are. And we can't always see it, but when you start to feel that blessing, and when you start to look back, then it becomes much easier. But yes, that is the idea that, and you can read that Lahiri Mashaya was actually a little bit worried at one point. Can you imagine? So he's practicing very, very deeply. He's going into samadhi, and he's just a little bit worried that if I was, he's saying to himself, maybe if I was to die right now, I don't know, maybe I would be free completely, or maybe I wouldn't. He was a little bit worried about that, and then he was no longer worried about it. And he didn't express this to anybody. He only wrote it, as far as I know, he only wrote it in his diaries, that he was a little bit worried about it. And then he stopped being worried about it because he came to a deeper place and no more worries. And so he had more confidence. But what does that look like? So the Gita says, that the normal understanding, the way that they say it, it's very, very simple. It's way, way too simple. But I'll say it so we know what it is. They say that when you die, if you can be in the Ajna chakra at the moment of your death, then you will be free. But that's too easy. What it really means is if you can be identified with your right brain at the moment of your passing, then you will go straight into the cloud of knowing, the Dharma Mega. And, that's the divine. And so just like, you lose your computer, but it's backed up on the cloud, no problem. It's still up there in the cloud. I don't have my computer here, but it's up in the cloud. Same thing, Dharma Mega. So we connect into that. We become the cloud, and then we lose the body and we're free. We don't have to come back. And that kind of identification is what leads to that kind of freedom. And that is the non-dual state. So to have the non-dual state, you want it to the point where you can access it immediately. And that sounds incredible. But Satyeshwaran mentions this. So he's explaining to his student Ashok Chatterjee, not my guru, Ashok Singh, Ashok Chatterjee, he's explaining to his student, he says, whatever I'm doing, so for example, if he was to wash a dish, I can open my eyes and I can see myself washing the dish. And then if I look in my spiritual eye, I can see myself washing the dish. And that was his particular experience of profound right brain access. And it was immediate, you see. And so he had immediate, profound right brain access where he could instantly be in the right brain and just see everything as one. And he told Ashok Chatterjee, this is the pinnacle of yoga. And he did not mean the way that he had it, right? That sounds almost like an out-of-body experience. That's not the point. The point is the right brain access. One of my students, he said, if I look up a little bit and I do Hakala, the whole world will dissolve. And he had many, many samadhis before this. And so I believe him. That's the kind of profound right brain access that you want at the moment of your passing. And then you can pass into the cloud and you're just the cloud. So I hope that answers. That was a great question. that's the very quick version of what freedom looks like. So that's moksha, that's liberation, that's kaivalya, whatever you want to call it. That's merging with the Dharmamagga. Jeff Jordan says, is a roll-up of consciousness into the heart chakra an unbinding of one of the three knots spoken by Lahir Mashaya? Happy Saturday. I love you all. Thank you. Beautiful, Jeff. Yes. When you have there are two, so there's two things here when we're talking about knots. And the three knots are really more of an experience. It's like seeing the spiritual eye. And Lahiri Baba is saying, when you're going on your way, you might notice these things arise. And it's not about, hey, Jeff, there he is. So it's not that it's this, well, it is a knot. It is a knot, but don't think of it so much of a knot. Think of it more as an experience that you're going to have on your way. It's a road sign that you might see along the way, but it's not something that you have to worry about untying. Damas says, you bet you notice that your heart explodes. Yeah, there's now a lot of times that can be a really big experience, and sometimes it will be a very subtle experience and your heart will just kind of open up, or you might just feel energy come into your heart. So these things can happen in both a small way and a very big way. But so the first knot is a pole or magnetic sensation of the spiritual eye, and this can get quite intense for some people, and that's why I say don't train yourself to overuse your spiritual eye, or you might be sorry at some point. I emphasize the medulla, my guru emphasized the medulla, I emphasize the crown, my guru emphasized the crown, and that's one of the reasons why. It's a much more balanced take. So in Kriya, we om up through the spine, but we stop at the medulla. In my lineage, we don't go forward to the spiritual eye and om. We don't om there. We om in the medulla, because that Kriya is the war of Kurukshetra, and I don't make war on my brain. So what happens, I do the war up to the medulla, and then you'll notice that you float through the brain, that the consciousness rises and you float through the brain. You don't om through it. Well, you can om through it. You don't want to breathe through it. And people are like, what does that mean? Well, breathing through your brain looks like this. I'm going to push air and om through my brain. I'm going to do it one time as a demonstration. So, that would be breathing through your brain. And one time is okay. One time would be okay, but 100 times will be very unbalancing for you. But you can om through your brain. Om, 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 om up to the crown. That's great. So the idea is we clean everything out with the om japa and the breath, and then we float. Our consciousness floats up the spine. We have that roll up of consciousness. It might go up to the medulla, and then it might float all the way to the crown. And when you're in the crown, you're on the edge of yourself. You are on the edge of you. So here's forest, here's the divine. And so when I'm in the crown, I'm on the edge of myself, and there's nowhere to go but to expand. And that's the idea, that we just float up the spine. We have the tranquil breath, the freeze response, the roll up of consciousness, and then we expand. And very simply, that's the whole plan. Kind of beautiful, kind of simple, kind of easy, right? Kind of amazing. So the first knot is that pole. The second knot is the opening of the heart. And that just means that you can feel. And when you start feeling some energy moving in your body, even if it's small, if it's big, it doesn't matter. When that begins, your heart has begun to open up. The heart knot is opening. And this might be dramatic for some yogis. It's a big opening. They really start to feel things. They really start to feel energies. Like I told the story about Kevin, who was a Navy man, and he called me up. He goes, Forrest, I can't watch a bloody movie without bawling my eyes out. What is going on? I'm like, well, your heart is open. He's like, damn right it's open. I can't watch anything without crying my eyes out. So that was great. And then the third notch is a spiral. And that spiraling is, I don't have a bottle right here, but somebody asked, why is it a spiral? I said, well, look at the top of a bottle. You unscrew it to open it up. And it just so happens that for a lot of yogis, as you get out of your left brain, there's a spiral to get out of it. And some people will say that the spiral is in the coccyx. Some people will say it's up in the brain. It's in the, well, it's definitely in the brain, because you can experience the spiral anywhere. Like I've felt it in my coccyx. I felt as if my whole room was spinning. I've felt it in my head, and I've even seen it in the spiritual eye. So all of those are the third knot. Those are all experiences of the same third knot. And if you look at the vital airs, one of the vital airs is pictured, and this is in my book. So the vital airs are in my book, and you can see that one of them is a spiral up in the head. And so now you understand why I gave you this exercise, which is always counterclockwise, by the way. Never clockwise, only counterclockwise, if you remember that exercise. And if you hold your breath a little bit and do that at the same time, it becomes even more powerful. So kind of amazing. So those are the three knots, and those are experiences that you might feel. And so that's one system of knots. I roll my head all around town. That's fantastic. The other system is just the passage from one chakra to the next. And you really feel that when you get up into the heart. So when you overcome the lower three chakras, you might feel yourself rise into the heart. And if you watch the Big Bliss training, Kevin says, I feel like there's some smoke and it's risen up into my heart. And that's his feeling of the roll up into the heart. And so for people that have had several roll-ups, it becomes more subtle. Now, the first time it happens, it might be big, and it might be in your face. Yeah, apparently, yes, right, Jeff? Okay, yeah. So the first few times, it can be really, really big. And then you kind of get used to it, and it starts to become more subtle. And so don't look that it's going to be big like that every single time. And it starts getting very easy, and you just hop up into your heart, and then you notice that you're in your throat, and then maybe you notice that you're in your medulla, or maybe you're in your crown, or as Ashok told me, there's these levels between the medulla and the crown. So you might feel that you're going through those levels as well. Or you just know that you're lifted up. I don't even know where I'm at, but I just feel lifted up, and that's perfect. That's perfect, absolutely perfect. And so then you'll also notice the 4 Brahma Viharas. You'll notice that some loving kindness happens automatically, some compassion. Like oh my God. So I'm on this call with this cute, beautiful couple from Croatia, and I'm giving them Kriya, and all this compassion goes through me. I almost didn't make it through the call because I was about ready to bawl my eyes out. But all this compassion will come through you automatically, and then there's some joy that will arise, and that joy is different from any other kind of happiness on the world. So whenever you can say, I'm happy, and then go, why am I happy? oh, because this person gave this to me, or this person said this to me, that's why I'm happy. That's that that's in the cycle of causation, right? It's in the cycle of the world. There's a reason for it, but the joy, this internal joy, comes from freedom. And so you can't pin it on a reason outside of yourself. And that's amazing. They're all the four of the Brahma Viharas, they're transcendent, right? And then we reach that beautiful equanimity, which is peace and bliss and love and joy and compassion, all rolled up in one. And it's very, very sublime. And so you see that the Kundalini people are often looking for something bigger and better and more in my face. And it's a misunderstanding, because it gets more subtle is what happens. And so you might have more big in your face experiences, that's great, that's fine, but don't look for them. Just keep it simple and very subtle, and just notice. And then what's really fun to me is, okay, I'm up in my heart, I'm up in my throat, I'm somewhere up here in the upper nervous system. Then look back on something like, maybe it was a day ago, or maybe it was a week ago or a month ago, and it was something that you were worried about, and go, can I worry about that? And you can't. And then oh, this is the real roll-up of consciousness. It's about me overcoming the worries and concerns which are childish, which are in the lower chakras, right? You've risen up above it and you can't even contemplate it. It's like, why would I? Oh no, I can't be worried about that. Why would I be worried about that? That's the ascension of consciousness. And then you can really start to see it there. And that's the amazing thing. So yeah, when we talk about knots, people get worried that it's going to be hard. It's not hard. It's hard in that it's hard to let go. But otherwise, it's really not that hard. And the Kriya program, it will take you through all of it automatically. So don't ever be worried about knots, because they're nothing. And once you get on the other side, you're like, oh yeah, it was nothing. You worry about it when you're before it, but then you get on the other side, it's like, oh, it was nothing. I was worried about nothing. So don't worry about it. And you already exploded. So there you go. Beautiful. Oh, thank you. Votek. Hi, Forrest. You mentioned that life speeds up due to doing Kriya Yoga. I also noticed this effect. What is the mechanism behind this? Could it be said that karma is burning up more quickly? Now, yeah, so I mentioned this with spinal breathing. So before I came to my guru's lineage, I mentioned spinal breathing, and I mentioned how other yogis were talking about how their life would speed up. And I'm like, so I'm talking to a yogi. I'm at the lake shrine. I'm with his wife. They're from New York, beautiful couple. And I came to convocation all by myself. I was like 13 or something crazy. I'm in LA by myself. I remember going down through the heart of LA. It was just, so I'm by myself at 13. It was crazy. It was a crazy thing. But this couple adopted me, and they were so sweet. And then he goes to me, he goes, so have you noticed that your life speeds up? I'm like, what? And he goes, it speeds up. I'm like, no, I don't know. And he goes, well, have you noticed you have more problems? I'm like, yes, I do notice that. And that doesn't sound good. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is not a good thing. Well, you're burning your karma faster. I'm like, no, this doesn't sound right. So if you're only doing the spinal breathing, yes, it will definitely speed things up in that manner that he was talking about in your life. We don't actually want that so much. We want to clear things out. And so we want a lot of Om Japa in the chakras. And if you're noticing, I feel like my life is speeding up and it's too much. When you notice that, then the weight of the Om Japa is not heavy enough, and the spinal breathing is too heavy. So you need to balance it this way, okay? more Om Japa, less spinal breathing, and make the Om Japa heavy in your life. Make the Navi heavy in your life, and that will. Damascus is having a baby. I'll probably do more Om Japa in the future. Beautiful. Absolutely. Please do. And yes, for sure. I did a lot of Om Japa with my daughter, and had a lot of sleepless nights. And yeah, I was living somewhere really hot, and she didn't like the hot, and she could not sleep. And so I'd be, you know, on baby duty every night. And yeah, that was a lot of sleepless nights. So I hope you don't have that same trouble. But yeah, a lot of Om Japa, and you can Om with your kids, and you can like at one point my daughter didn't like one particular milk. We had to change to a different milk, and I just mentioned this to Ashokji offhandedly, and he goes, "Well, Om into her fire center, Om into it for her. So just put your hand on her and Om into the digestive center and see if that helps her." And I did that, and it helped. We had to get new milk as well, but it helped. It was wonderful. So could it be said that the karma is burning up more quickly? Yes, and you want the Om Japa to clear it out for you. And then so everything should go much more smoothly when you're doing the Om Japa and the Navi. And then you are clearing out the past issues. So how is that working? Well, your subconscious is a storehouse, and it's a problem solver. When you have a problem, when something arises in your life, your subconscious is given the duty to solve it. And when you can't solve it, you take that bottomless pit of your subconscious and you stuff it down, and you say, I can't deal with this right now. And like right now life is too busy, I can't deal with this. And the subconscious goes, oh, no problem. It's like, okay, I'll just tuck this away for later, okay? And then you're meditating and you're nice and quiet, and the subconscious says, this is a great time, can we bring this up and solve it? And you're like, I'm trying to meditate. But this is really good. If you can solve it. And so now you've got the issue in front of you, and it's come out of the subconscious. Subconscious says, I need resolution. And so we can Om into it primarily, right? We can do timeline therapy. We can do little Huna type. If you look at the Huna, it's so common sense. Once you read one or two Huna books, it's not that complicated. It's just common sense. I'm going to take some clay, and I'm going to, this person I have a problem with, I'm going to take the clay and form it into them and then beat the clay. It's just, I'm getting out my anger, right? I'm beating my pillow, right? That's easy common sense, right? I'm going to write out all my troubles and then burn them and smell the smoke and feel the loss of those problems, right? They're all very common sense, and they seem a little bit silly, right? Like you're kind of doing it, you're kind of like, oh, this is so silly, it's so weird, but I'm gonna try it, right? And that's okay. And they seem so silly, but they are not speaking to your conscious mind. They are primarily speaking to your subconscious mind. And it's so profound because it helps you to get resolution with that issue. And the Om Japa will do it. The Om Japa will do it. But the Huna will help. The timeline therapy will help. Just writing it out will help. I love that therapy. There's a writing therapy. You take one issue. So maybe one of these issues comes up and you want to resolve it. You don't know how. And it's not working quickly. And you would like to speed it up. Get 2 sheets of paper or 1 sheet of paper and use the front and the back. And then at the top of one, put the issue, and then put your pen on the paper, and you are not going to stop until you fill up both pages. You want to fill up 2 pages. one page front and back, or 2 pages, either way. And you just write. And you can even write, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just writing because I have to keep writing. I'm writing about this issue, but I don't know what to say. And you just keep doing that. And at some point, oh, something comes out of you. Something comes out of the subconscious. And it will surprise you. Like, this connects to this. There's connections that are made. What it's really about reveals itself to you. You know, a lot of times we think we know what something's about, but we don't. What it's really about is something deeper, something that happened in our childhood. Like, this connects to this. Like, it's profound. So that's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I've used that many times, and I've always been surprised. I'm writing, I don't know, oh my God, and then you just start writing out this amazing thing, right? And it's this revelation from deep inside of the subconscious, and that's a wonderful way to get things out. And so that's what and what will happen, you will take out, you know, 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 or 20, and then you'll, oh my God, I feel so much more clear. Like, my whole life gets clarity. And for a lot of people, they have a breakthrough in 1 year of Om Japa. 1 year Om Japa, they come back and they tell me, oh my God, Forrest. I had a wonderful student call me up. He's, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it was wonderful. I just loved it. It was a great conversation. And it happened at 1 year. And I've had multiple yogis tell me 1 year of Om Japa was a breaking point for me. It was a really huge turning point. So I love that. So it all works. Don't think it's going to increase your karma. That's a wrong idea. It's relieving your karma. It's getting rid of it. And then your life gets easier. And that's beautiful. So, great question. Nancy says, samsara, the cyclic pattern of existence, birth, old age, and death. As humans progress through the journey of material existence, we undergo many births and deaths. Not in the literal sense, although I suppose a person can die and then be reincarnated. What I'm referring to is that each new endeavor is becoming, which is a birth. When change comes along, this is death. What we previously have becomes we no longer are. So it is a constant flux between arising and ceasing. What is your perspective on labeling the cycle of samsara? Could you share your own perspective on the samsaric cycle? Yeah. Oh, wow. Beautiful question. You know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she wrote about death and dying. And she wrote about these change states, which are kind of amazing. And I wrote about this on Patreon. It's a very old posting, but that little sheet, that little understanding is kind of amazing. And what she said is so you go from status quo to something happens, right? And so you go into shock that something happened, and then you go into denial that it happened. Like, I don't know, it didn't, nah, this is not happening to me. And then you go into anger. How could this happen to me? Right? And then you go into bargaining, like, oh my God, like, you know, if I can stop smoking, or if I could pray every day, would you relieve this burden from me, God? Right? That's bargaining. And then we go into depression, and where we really accept that this change is taking place and we're kind of grieving. And then we test out something which is new. And then finally we reach acceptance after testing multiple times, right? And that's the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross highway to change. And the amazing thing that she said was that this takes place in every single change that takes place in your life. That little cycle of ups and downs inside of yourself reaching acceptance happens in every single change that you make inside of your life, everything. So that's kind of amazing. And I had the pleasure of studying with Blake Snyder, excuse me. Blake Snyder was a screenwriter, and he started to realize that all of the stories have these core archetypal commonalities. And he started to write them all down. And he became an absolute master of story. And he just dissected it down to the bones, down to the really big picture of what a story is. And what he was explaining in his classes is the cycle of change. It's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So Blake Snyder, every single story, every single movie, he says has 15 beats. And those 15 beats of change in the story, which by the way will take place in every commercial. Every commercial is asking you to dump your old product and embrace the new product, which is a change, right? And so a 5-minute commercial has those same 15 beats, and those same 15 beats are the same as Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's graph to show you what happens when you go through change. So every single story, every single commercial, every single movie is telling you about the cycle that you're asking about, Nancy, the cycle of samsara. Every single one. And that's why we love the story, because the story is actually telling you about the hero's journey. So this is, it was Star Wars that famously figured out that if I could follow the hero's journey, I could write a fantastic story, right? They weren't the first ones to figure that out, but they were one of the highlights, right? And so that's every great story is the hero's journey. And the true hero's journey is your soul's journey back into the infinite. And the yogis say that the moment that creation was made, yoga was born as well. And that's just to say that when you create something, that process of creation, there's also the reverse is also there, the ability to go back. And that's what we're doing in yoga, that you have a brain and a nervous system which pushes you to be out in the world. And the yogi says, well, if that's true, then I can also go back in. And that's, in a nutshell, what yoga is doing. What the whole process is doing is, if I was spit out by God, I can also go back into God, right? And that's the hero's journey. So yeah, there's all these little births that take, all these little births and deaths that take place in our lives, and that's change. That's every single change. And so we'll notice the big ones, but every single change is going through that same cycle. And so that is the real cycle. So it's status quo to shock, to denial, to anger, to bargaining, to depression, to testing, and then into acceptance. And so when you study that profoundly inside of yourself, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, some people didn't like her writings. I mean, it was bizarre stuff, but somebody came in, an arson burned down her house. And the story is that she came home, saw that her house was burned down, and because she was so conversant in understanding acceptance, and she had watched so many people die. I mean, that was her work, to sit with people that were on the edge of death and accept that. She'd gone through that so many times that within 5 minutes, she accepted that her house and all of her belongings were gone. Well, that's a yogi, right? So that's the power of understanding that cycle, or, doing lots of Om Japa and becoming transcendent, right? That's what we're doing. Kind of amazing, right? Beautiful question. Thank you, Nancy. Oh, here we go. Jimmy, hi, Forrest. Last week I felt a vortex spinning from my root up into my heart. Oh, that's cool. I have heard you mention the vortex before, but couldn't locate where. Can you please explain? Yeah, that's the third knot. And so it's in the 3-knot video. There's more than one. I think there's 2, possibly 3 videos on the 3 knots. I think it's 2. And so, yeah, so the first place I felt the spiral was in my root chakra. And then I had gone into the very deep, tranquil breath, and I felt like the whole room was spinning, and with closed eyes. And then I opened my eyes, and I absolutely believed that I was going to see my room spinning, which you can't see it, right? But it will feel like it's spinning, even when it doesn't look like it's spinning. And then I saw it in the spiritual eye. But you had it from the root up into the heart. You felt it spiral, which is beautiful. Love it. So yes, that's all the 3rd knot, which we already talked about that a little bit, right? So 3rd knot, kind of amazing. What I notice is, so one of the ways that it will happen very profoundly is you will see the spiritual eye, which you don't have to see it. So don't worry if you don't see it. A lot of people say, oh, I don't see it and I'm worried about that. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. It's just a sign. So, but if you do see it and it starts to get very close, first of all, that's the first progression. It will start far away, and then it will get very close and very big. And then it might, you'll have an experience of either seeing the spiral like this, or you might see it in waves. So I've had like sheet lightning come like this, where I was seeing the waves like this, you see? And that's the experience that is mentioned in the autobiography of a yogi. Yogananda runs away from his guru and he meets another yogi. And while he's there, he says, I'm seeing the spiritual lightnings. That's what they're talking about, that lightning coming over you. And then finally, it might go like this, where it's a wrap around you. And all of those are the same experience, by the way. We're talking about this spiral. It's all the same. And then, so when it's wrapping around you, you're actually going into the spiritual line, which, by the way, that's the same thing as going through the crown. Same thing in the brain, just different way. So one yogi says we're going this way. One yogi says we're going this way. Yes, that's correct. Both of those are the same thing. And they might feel different, but they're actually the same experience. And so that's a beautiful way that you might notice it, is that it's coming over you like this. When any of that is happening, there has to be a profound relaxation. Like, how can I explain? It's beyond the physical. It's a profound mental relaxation which is taking place, where you're letting go of your story. So it's a really, really, really profound letting go when the spiral starts to happen, right? And again, this is one of those things where it might be big or it might be a blip. You might notice it, you might not notice it. It might be small and you notice it. It might be small and you don't notice it. These are not things to worry about. These are just signs, wonderful signs, but just signs. So fantastic, Jimmy. I love your experience. Ryan, I think the fullness of this answer is probably reserved for samadhi. But prior, can the left brain make any useful sense of this? John mentioned meaning and feeling like always having existed. If we have always and always will exist, is there a way to never forget this one we remember? Well, that's the whole process. That's the whole yogic process right there, is to remember that. It seems as if we are here to learn. This implies the mystery isn't omniscient, which, if the case, would make one want to never forget the learning already done, so as not to regress in understanding and quality of experience, agency. So yeah, many times you will have an experience, and if you can if you can keep a meditation diary and write those experiences down, and then every once in a while go through your meditation diary, then it will help you to relearn the things that were given to you, because we do tend to forget. But don't worry, if you do forget, God will remind you. You keep going and God will remind you, no problem. Or if we are here for play, if one prefers, say, lucid dream play experience over ignorance and suffering play, one would also, again, never want to forget the true nature, again, to keep repeating mistakes. Appreciate any thoughts. Meditation is going well, but things like meaning, agency, communication, and harmony, my left brain is curious, pre-samadhi. If there are any useful thoughts here. Yeah, that's the whole process. We're going into that knowing that you are the one, that you are the universe, right? That's what you are. You are the Atman. The Atman is the soul, and the soul is one with everything. The Atman is this, everything. Everything is the Atman. Everything is the soul. You are that. And that's what we're uncovering, right? And so, but it's a very difficult thing to learn, and you can think about it and you can contemplate it. And that contemplation in itself is a kind of meditation. But the true knowing is a revelation. And so in that interview with John, you hear him, he's contemplating. He will go into, so part of the mystery of John, what makes John John, is that he will sit with something and he will just contemplate it continuously. And then as that beautiful, oh my God, this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. If you love something enough, it will give up all of its secrets to you. So true. Absolutely true. And so he will sit with something and just contemplate it, not in an aggressive left brain way, but in just a curious, I'm just contemplating. I'm just sitting. I'm just loving. So he'll sit with love. I love love. Love. And he'll just sit with it until it reveals something to him. And that's the revelation, right? So that's how to contemplate something correctly. And so that's the revelation, the understanding that you are one with everything. It's not something that you can think about and cognize with our left brain. We can begin to contemplate it. And then the trick that John is using is to mull it over continuously in a contemplation, in a heartfelt contemplation. And that's what I did with Kriya. So I will have a question about Kriya, and I'll just think about it. So I will think about it and try and figure it out, and then I'll also contemplate it. And then it will just reveal itself at some point. And that's all the process of intuition. And so that's why meditation, yoga, this is a intuitive process. Everything is revealed to you. And the yogis say, eventually, whatever your intuition becomes so big inside of you that whatever you want to know, you can know. And I don't mean a left brain systematic learning of something. I mean, you just know, like you start seeing into the heart of everything. Well, I would like to know about this. And then you see into the heart of it. Or somebody asks you a question, you go, I don't know. And then you see into the heart of it. And that's all the intuition. And that intuition does the same thing when you're asking about yourself. Who am I? What am I? Where am I going? Where did I come from? All of those questions, it just reveals to you. And that's the revelation. And out of the contemplation and the intuition. And so hopefully that's a good left brain answer that will lead us to contemplation and intuition and the meditation, which leads to the revelation. Beautiful question, Ryan. Thank you. Daniel. Do different yogis have varying levels of spiritual knowledge? And oh, this is perfect. Right on top of the last question. Do different yogis have varying levels of spiritual knowledge and capabilities? Maybe you call it siddhis, despite being on the same level of consciousness, self-realization. If so, how come? What does this depend on? Well, this is beautiful because I've come to realize that whatever you are interested in, that will be where your intuition goes. So, for example, I have a friend. He likes what's that guy? They call him a prophet. Kim Clement. I have a friend that likes Kim Clement. Kim Clement was very interested in world events, and so he will sit and pray and pray and pray until he's given an answer about world events, and then he'll talk about world events. And I am all about Kriya Yoga. So I'm like Kriya Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Kriya. Boom! It all blew up in my face, and the revelation happened, right? So what you are interested in, some people are interested in relationships. They have deep insight into relationships. You look at different kinds of therapists, and they're very, very interested in different components of relationships and different components of surviving society. And so they're very, very good and very, very insightful in those categories. And so whatever you are interested in, that's where your intuition is automatically going to go. It's all coming from your heart. It's not coming from, well, I'm deciding that I am going to be this. Well, you kind of can, but not really. It has to be from your heart. I love this. I love this, and then this is what is revealed to me. And we tend to all want to know the truth about the soul and God and creation. So all the yogis tend to get those answers, right? But it's all from the love. If you love something enough, it will give up all of its secrets to you. So it's a process of love, right? That's where your intuition goes. And then boom, it just blows up for you. It just reveals itself to you because you are a real lover of it, not because you were there, casually curious, right? There's a casual curiousness, and then there's a heartfelt curiousness. And it's the heartfelt curiousness that will lead you into the revelation, right? Not just, oh, I was just kind of curious. No, that's not the right curiosity. It has to be the heart. The heart is like, I want to know, like, what's going on? What is this? And that leads to it. So depending on his personal inclination, a yogi can know whatever he wants. Correct. And I don't mean a left brain knowing. So a lot of times there will be pieces that will be left out, and you might be interested in a subject and you might know the heart of it. And then there's always things that you can learn outwardly about it, but you already know the heart of it. And I think I remember hearing about that and going, oh, that's wild. Is that true? That can't be true. It's true. It's bloody true. In my experience, whatever you want to know, you can know. And so I'll just be interested in something, and out of the blue, I'll get a phone call and somebody will call me and tell me, and I want to talk to you about this. And they'll just tell me all these things. I'm like, you start to put it together. You go, oh my God, that's because I wanted to know. And then here it is. And so it can come to you that way. It can come to you in a dream. It can come to you in a vision. It can come to you in meditation. It can come to you while you're sitting on your couch watching the TV. Somebody can walk up and tell you. You might get a book that tells you something, but you will be told. And that's really, yeah, that's, oh, you're so welcome. That's the blessing for the yogi. It's a deep blessing. It's profound. And so you'll know the heart of it. You'll know the why of it, versus maybe somebody that's spent their whole life studying it outwardly, and they know all the little details, but they don't know the heart. And then suddenly you know the heart. And so suddenly your intuition has gone past their outward learning. Not not to replace their outward learning, but it's just beyond it, because you actually know the heart, and that's kind of crazy. I mean, I look at that in my life, and I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, but it does when you understand intuition. Like outwardly, it doesn't make sense, but inwardly, it makes sense. So yeah, and so that also goes for siddhis. Now, many yogis will actually reach a certain point and they will actively seek siddhis. I don't really do that, but some yogis will do that. Like you see some yogis with a lot of siddhis and they're displaying them, then more than likely they were very interested in siddhis and they wanted to display them. That there was interest there. I don't really have that same interest, and yeah, so I have things that arise, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like like one of my students called me up. He goes, I'm reading other people's minds. I'm like, yeah, because you're more quiet and you're actually listening. And so their energy field and, you know, the subtle cues that are in their face, you're seeing it either consciously or subconsciously, and you're hearing their subconscious, and you're feeling what they're feeling because they're radiating things. And you know, you're just there. You're just there versus everybody else. And so you start reading other people's minds and knowing what they. So for me, it's a feeling. It doesn't come. So like Ashok, my guru, it was very. I think it was much more auditory. He was an engineer, and so he would actually hear thoughts. Whereas for me, it's much more feeling based. I'm much more of a feeler, and so I will feel things. And then I find out over and over again that the feeling is almost 100% correct. It's like very, very, very correct. Maybe I misinterpret it a little bit, but mostly it's very correct. And so he goes, how do I turn this off? Like I shouldn't be doing this. Like we don't look for siddhis, right? We don't practice those. They're a hindrance to us. And I'm like, yes, that's correct, but I have no idea how you're going to turn it off. He goes, really? And like, how are you going to turn it off? Like, think about it. How are you going to turn it off? Like, I'm becoming more subtle. I'm hearing more things. Like, how am I going to? You can't turn that off. So he's like, oh, okay. So what do I do? I'm like, don't misuse it. That's all. Just don't misuse it. Just be nice about it, and be sympathetic and compassionate about it. And he understood. So yes, why is that? Oh God, well, mostly it's interest, but really it's like that. It's a little bit of a question. Like a lot of I get these young Indian men who will call me, and they're like engineers. And I love that engineers are attracted to my channel. I love it. I adore it. But they're like, so how long is this going to take? Because I'm on a schedule, and I think I only have 3 years to complete this and go into samadhi. And I'm like, no, no. None of it works that way. It doesn't. There's so many things. There's so many variables. So why does it happen exactly like that? Their past karma. You know, their interest, the way that things are unfolding for them, which chakra are they using primarily, where are they having trouble? Like it's your trouble that will teach you, right? So like I have like a relationship trouble or a societal trouble, like that troubles you, and then you will want to solve it, and then your intuition will start to become applied to it, and then boom, you'll have a realization about it. And so the trouble becomes the gift, right? So why is that gift arising? Well, you had trouble in that area. You needed the solution. You needed the help, and the yoga and the intuition will reveal things to you. So yeah, it's like how is that going to manifest in one person? You can't figure that out. You might see it coming, but you can't really figure it out ahead of time. Beautiful question, Daniel. Amber, you asked me a question, and I really think it has to do with you and your situation. And so I want to answer that privately. I think you're not here, but you're going to watch this later. So I want to answer that privately because I want to give you an answer which is more tailored for you, because my normal answer would be no. But there's something going on with you. I want to talk to you about it, I think. But your other question, your second question, you said, would you say the roll-up of consciousness is the rise of Kundalini itself? Yes. and you say, I feel the answer is yes, but would like to confirm. So there are two primary ways that we can feel this. We can feel the energy run up the spine. And when it runs up the spine, we might feel that we are coming with it. So in Dubeji's book, there's a beautiful part, my favorite part. He says, I found myself in the third chakra. So he felt that his consciousness was located in the third chakra, right? And he said, I'm watching the current go up and down the spine. Like he's feeling it and he's watching it. Doesn't mean he sees it, means he feels it, right? He might see it, but more than likely he just feels it. So he's watching it go up and down the spine. And then he says, I hooked onto it and I rose with it. And that's the ascension of consciousness. That's the roll-up of consciousness that we're talking about. And that's what I talk about. So the way I like to talk about it very simply is that there's a lot of things in the way, and we're just clearing all of that out. And then you came from your brain, like we can all agree on that, right? So you have a nervous system, but you're coming from your brain. And so the you that is down here is actually projected from the brain. And so we clear out all of those hindrances and boom, it pops back up towards the brain or into the brain. And that's the roll up of consciousness. And I say roll up because I had this funny experience that it happened so strongly to me that it felt like, you know, those old roller shades, and you pull the roller shade down and it kind of clicks into place, and then you pull it down some more and you let it go and it pops and it goes boom, and it jumps back up and it goes and rolls around at the top, right? You remember those old rollers? Anybody? Yeah, okay, great. So that is what happened to me, that I was doing the Om Japa, and then boom, my consciousness rolled up into the brain. It just went up in my brain. I'm like, oh my God, that's just like the old rollers. So I call it the roll up of consciousness. Madri calls it ascension, right? So she's ascending back into the brain. Perfect. That works well. Yeah, absolutely. And so oh yeah, so is that Kundalini? Yes. Is it consciousness? Yes. So people will talk about Kundalini as if it's energy, but the proper so prana means energy. So if prana means energy, what does Kundalini mean? Well, they say a more subtle energy. Yeah, that's a good start. But it also means power and intelligence. Oh, intelligence. There we go. There we have the clue. And the clue is telling you that, see, you are a product of the superconscious mind. Without the superconscious mind, there's no you. You would not exist. Not at all. Not a hair, not a moment, not a speck, not a second, not a millisecond. You would not be alive without the superconscious mind. And that superconscious mind has come down and it's created, how can I say? It's created a system that will keep your body alive. It does your breathing. It does your heart rate. It does your digestion. It does your elimination. It does your circulation. On and on and on. It does all of the cellular processes which keep you alive. And that is your subconscious. And your subconscious is ruled by the superconscious mind. So no superconscious, no subconscious. No subconscious, no you. Can you imagine? I can't talk to you right now. I have to breathe. It would be impossible. You couldn't live you wouldn't last an hour. You wouldn't last minutes. No circulation, no more life. So all of that is regulated from the superconscious mind. And so that goes down and you are reversing your way through that. So you are just awake on the surface, right? The conscious mind. And so we go back down into the subconscious and travel through it and find our way all the way to the superconscious mind. And that's the ascension. And so you feel that ascension through the spine, and you say this is Kundalini. And the Kundalini is that consciousness returning to the brain. And so the Pandavas win the war, right? They win the war, and at the end of the war, they rule the kingdom peacefully. And so what do they what is that? That's tranquil breath and freeze response. When you have the tranquil breath and the freeze response, I want you to sit there and go, oh my God, I have won the war of Kurukshetra. Oh my God, I have tranquil breath and freeze response. It's not a lot, but I don't care. I won the bloody war. And I'm sitting here in Para Avasta, and I am noticing that I am ruling the kingdom peacefully. And that's you. You've won the war, and you're sitting with the Pandavas in your spine going, I won the war. Yay! And then once you start walking up the mountain, that is the ascension of consciousness. So when you have a roll up into the heart, you've also won the Ramayana, right? And you are ascending your way back into heaven. And so the Pandavas, they walk all the way up. And the first one to go, God bless her, Draupadi. Am I saying it right? Draupadi? Did I say it right? The wife that they share, she's the first one to go. And she is Kundalini. So first we feel that Kundalini, and then the first brother dies, and then Sahadeva, then Nakula, then Arjuna, then they all die off. And only the last brother, the throat, is there at the gates of heaven. And so you will have a roll up of consciousness, and you'll feel yourself up in the brain. That's you at the gates of heaven. And then he sits there and he negotiates his way into heaven, because he's got to solve the riddle of his dog. He's like, well, you can come into heaven, but you can't bring your dog. He says, well, the dog made it all the way up the bloody mountain. My own brothers didn't make it up the mountain. I'm not leaving my dog. And he's like, okay, you won. You can come in. And that's the negotiation of your ego being transmuted into heaven. So the dog, it becomes Vishnu. And that's your ego becomes, the brainwave actually flips up, and it actually merges into the gamma. And that is you, your ego, becoming one. Ego is not quite the right thing to say. It's your beta brainwave becoming part of the gamma brainwave. And at that point, you are merged. And so that happens even in absorption. You are merging into the divine, even in an absorption, even in a mini absorption. You are merging into the divine. You're becoming one with it. It's gargantuan, right? Gargantuan. And so that's you. So it's win the war, rule peacefully, and then go up the mountain, and that's the Kundalini. So yes. So they will say it's just energy. It's not. It's the energy. It's the consciousness. And that's why I say, okay, notice the energy. Great. That's fine. Don't worry so much about the energy. Notice what's happening to your consciousness. When you rise above things and you look back on yesterday or the week before, the month before, and you say, can I worry about that? And you can't. That proves to you the ascension of your consciousness. It's gargantuan, huge, amazing. Thanks, Amber. Great question. And we'll talk about that other part, okay? Jamie, how are we at? Do we have a bunch of questions on the side that I'm not noticing? Oh, we do. Rudra, since Om Japa is so important, where can we find your best instruction? The Om Japa video, where there's a circle and it says Om inside the circle, that would probably be the best one. And there's also finding your chakras physically. That's important video. And also the getting to know the chakras, the animalistic nature of the chakras. So each of the chakras, there's a very solid, beautiful, animalistic, concrete, physical way to feel them. And so getting to know those, it makes it easier for the Om Japa, okay? But then basically a free flow practice from the coccyx to the medulla, just Om to your heart's content, and it will be wonderful. Just feel the chakra Om into it. Feel the chakra Om into it over and over again. And that's a beautiful way to go. Okay, what is happening with the breath and the mind and the focus? So you're feeling the chakra. That's the first thing. Okay. So for example, the physical instruction for the coccyx, let's say I'm going to do, let's say I go through a round of the physical instruction that Ashok gave me. He said, squeeze the coccyx, squeeze the anus, let it go. And as you let it go, feel the energy floating back towards the spine. It's a wonderful way to get to know your chakras. And then now that place that you feel, Om into it. Om. And so how do we do that? Well, you just put your mind there and then you just say the Om mentally. Om. That's it. That's Om. I just did Om in my first chakra. And then you do that with all the different chakras. You just feel it. And then once you get confident in feeling them, you don't have to go through that physical instruction anymore, right? That was just to get to know it. So you increase your confidence and you just, okay, I feel the chakra. I put my mind there in the feeling of it. And then I Om into it, Om mentally. All right. And then when I want to do that with breath, I go like this. I'm going to take a breath in and Om. And then I might take a breath out and Om. And now you're putting breath and Om together. So I'm saying the Om mentally as I'm breathing. Okay? Or sometimes it's easier to just do it with the out breath. That's fine too. So just the out breath. And I'm saying it out loud. I'm saying it with an open mouth, but you want to do it with a closed mouth and mentally. All right? Beautiful question. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Julia. Oh, thank you, Sia. Okay. Yes. Pooja says, you cannot come into the heart without clearing your first three chakras, or the energies can jump into the heart straight away. A little of both, but mostly the first one. So you don't have to be perfect. And that's kind of beautiful to know that it doesn't have to be perfect before these things start happening. So you work on it a little bit and then you'll jump into the heart. And then later you'll find out, oh, there's more. I can clean some more. And that's normal. So, but there's a certain level that we need, and how can we can't describe that perfectly, but there's a certain level of cleaning that we need, and then we'll just jump into the heart. And that's where you really begin to feel the ascension of the consciousness, as you feel it jump into the heart. And so that's perfect. Great question. Oh, you're welcome. Vici, how useful do you feel the invention such as headstand is for spiritual purposes, because it is a very respected pose in Hatha Yoga and is called the best mudra? Yes, because they're reversing the pressures of the gravity, so it's very healthful. And how so if you can't do, so I can't do the headstand. I'm not good at that. I could if I wanted to, if I practiced every day, but I don't. Another one that's the shoulder stand is much easier, and you get a ton of benefit from the shoulder stand. And then from the shoulder stand, you can go into the plow, which is also a fantastic stretch. So if I was going to do a very short, easy routine of Hatha Yoga, I would do so first of all, I always say Mahamudra is first on my list. It's my first love for Hatha Yoga, of course. And then second of all, just a forward bend, and then reverse so you bend forward and then reverse it and go into the shoulder stand if you can, and then go into the plow. And then if you want, you can go back to the forward bend. That's kind of wonderful, especially for your back. Now, how important is that for you don't have to do it for Kriya Yoga. So Lahiri Baba says, look, if you don't have to do all these complicated poses, and the headstand's quite difficult because there's a lot of balance that has to take place, and it's a little bit dangerous. Make sure you do it in a very pillowed out environment. Yeah, if you're going to do that, lots of pads, please. But how important? Lahiri Baba says, no, you just need to do the forward bend with a breath hold. And that's what Mahamudra is. And you do the left leg and then the right leg and then both together. And if you're a woman, you do the right leg, then the left leg, then both together. And that's helps to balance the yin and the yang. That's why they do that, but that's a minor point, very minor. So yeah, really amazing health benefits from the shoulder stand. And it's so good for your back. I want to do a video about asana. People who do a ton of asana will tell you they feel amazing. Like every day they feel amazing. So if you don't feel physically amazing every day and you want a little bit of that, then do more asana. Because what happens in your body is the muscles lengthen. And when you lengthen the muscles, there are some reports from the muscles. How can I explain? When you're stepping down a step and you miss the step, right? Your brain tells you that you are falling. And it does that. It knows that you are falling because the muscle has stretched too far. And so you will have yogis that will be in a deep meditation and they will say, I'm falling. I am floating. Because as they relax, the muscles lengthen so far that they send a message to the brain, you're falling. And so you might have felt that sometimes. You're meditating and you're like, whoa, what just happened? That was your muscles telling your brain that you were falling. And it's kind of amazing, right? And so when you continuously lengthen the muscles, there's a little bit of the lightness, which is reported to the body reported from the body to the brain all of the time. So doing a little more stretching every day, you will feel a little more of that lightness all of the time. It's kind of a superpower. But you only get it with people who do a lot of asanas. They really, really stretch themselves out. And there's a lightness that comes to a feeling of lightness that comes to the body. That's one of the very, God, you could almost say that's a power, but it's a really beautiful thing that happens to people who do a lot of asana. They just feel, they'll tell you, I feel great. And of course, it's stretching the arteries, it's stretching all of the veins, and that in itself is amazing for your health. So great question. I think I got all the questions up here. Oh, here we go. Christy, I'm relatively new to your community and I'm really glad to be here. So glad to have you. You have a wealth of helpful content on YouTube and Patreon, yet I'm not sure where to start. Sorry. Is there a roadmap? Yeah, there's some early roadmaps that I made. You have that defined terms that links to common practices that you mentioned. Well, I would go through my book in that case. So, and then as you go through the book, there are links if you get the Kindle version. And if you don't get the Kindle version, then I tell you what to search. And that will give you kind of a roadmap through the terms that I'm using, because I'm using a ton of terms. I know, I'm sorry. But the book, the new book, has all of them. And that's really the manual and the roadmap for everybody that I'm helping. So that's what I'd go for. Great question, Christy. Oh, thank you. Delphina. Ari the John podcast. What's John's secret sauce for those epic meditation experiences? It's that contemplation. That's what he's doing. So he's doing a constant, and it's not something that it's not something that he's really doing on purpose. It's just the way that he is. He just contemplates things endlessly. And it starts like It starts like a riddle for him. I hope that's a good way to say it, John. It starts like a curious question he can't let go. What is love really? What is reality? Who am I really? These kinds of questions. And he just kind of molds them over continuously. And that's why he said, I won't be in a meditation. I'll be, again, we have this thing we see a lot, that it happens at your most relaxed moment. And so he'll be anywhere. And then the whole revelation will come to him. And it's kind of a profound revelation. It's not just, oh, I think I get it. That's a little of a revelation. He's talking about a grand revelation will come to him. And that's kind of beautiful. Is it his personality, that ever curious mind? Yes, that's it. Sticking with the practice no matter what? Absolutely. Or maybe his laid back, easygoing attitude. That's what he said he learned from me. So he calls me up one day and he goes, Forrest, I want to tell you what I really learned from you. And I'm like, oh, great. Original Kriya Yoga, Om Japa, Navi Kriya. I'm thinking timeline therapy, Huna, all these big names, right? These big fancy names. Flow. Flow? Yes, Forrest, the biggest thing I learned from you was how to flow. I could not flow to save my life. And you taught me flow. And that's when everything started to work, is when he had some discipline and then he learned to flow with that discipline. Then everything started to work perfectly. So yeah, that's definitely part of his secret. Rudra, can you share your thoughts on the meaning or feeling of expanded consciousness? Wow. Well, I could talk about that forever. Share your thoughts on the meaning or feeling of expanded consciousness. Well, take everything. Here's a way to think about it, maybe. Take everything, but take your thoughts, first of all. Delete all of those. Imagine if you could delete all of your thoughts. Take all of your emotions, all of your negative emotions. Delete all of those. Maybe leave joy, maybe leave bliss, maybe leave love, but delete everything else. Take the world, all of its problems, all of its worries, all of its social strife, all of its troubles, all of its wars, even peace. Take all of that. Delete all of it. Take the world, the whole earth, delete it. And then it's just what? It's just you. It's just the real you. That's what the yogis are doing. What is the real me? Is it my thoughts? No. My samsara? No. My karma? No. My story? No. My societal status? No. Not even. None of that. That's what you are. So what is left? Well, the universe is huge. That's the defining feature of everything in the right brain. It's gargantuan. Now, fall in love with that. Hold that. Embrace that. How do you hug it? How can I wrap my mind, not really my mind, my Buddhi mind, my higher mind, my love, how can I wrap my love around the hugeness of God? How can I do that? Can you contemplate that? All of my thoughts gone, my life gone, my worries gone, the world's troubles gone, the story of earth, the story of man gone. It's just me. It's just my watching. They love to say watching, right? It's your conscious awareness. I am here. That's it. Maybe there's love, maybe there's joy, maybe there's peace, maybe there's bliss. Maybe. But maybe it's just expansion. For a long time, for me, it was just expansion. And by expansion, I mean huge. Expansion is just my way of saying huge. It's so big. Yeah. My God, you are so big. That's it. That's it. So you're just sitting there with the hugeness of God. It's so big. And you are taking it in. If you can take in the hugeness of God, like really, really take it in, then you enter into absorption. You enter. So, and I've given you 5 categories. Okay. Spaciousness, intelligence or presence, nothingness. The nothingness is a collapse, but first it was huge and it's a collapse, but it's still huge because there's nothing else. So it's still huge, you see? And then silence, the silence of your own mind, which is huge. It's unending. And then bliss and light, right? So that's 5 categories. But even those are not important. It's just huge, just big, big, big. And you're wrapping your mind around all your heart. You're wrapping your heart around all of that. You're wrapping your conscious awareness around all of that. That's what it is. And so what does that feel like? Oh, it feels like, I don't know, starlight. It feels like nothing, empty, clean. Somebody told me, the beautiful thing about watching Diane and John is I could see it, I could feel it. They had emptied out so much more than what I have emptied out of myself. And there's just nothing in the way. Yes, that's it. Nothing in the way. So delete all that other garbage for a moment. We can come back to the garbage, we have duties, right? It's like one of the practices I love to do is like, okay, I have this worry, and I got to take my daughter, and I have this, and then this, and this, and this. Divine Mother, here, you hold all of that. You hold all of that. Good, it's yours. I'll come and get it later. I promise. Let me meditate right now. I've given it all to you. You take care of it. Oh God, that's a beautiful. Take it all off of your heart. Give it to her. You hold it for 20, 30 minutes. An hour. Let me get away. Okay, you hold all that. I'm over here. I'm just gonna hold your hugeness. That's what it feels like. It's huge. It's gargantuan. That's the defining feature of the right brain processes, and you're becoming one with that, and that allows everything else. Glenn says, if sensitivity to others' energy consciousness field gets negative or vulgar, or bad dreams attacking you, what do you recommend? Oh, beautiful. So first of all, remember, I'm over here. They are over there. The problem is not here. They are over there. That's their problem. It's not mine. Okay? So you're coming from the consciousness, which everything is one, and then you're coming down to earth and you're saying, no, no, no. We have to define a few things, okay? like me over here and you over there. That's a good definition, right? So you define that. Help yourself to define that. I'm over here, they're over there, and just practice that. And it's good when you're feeling things from other people, have a direction finder. Like Star Trek. Like Star Trek. Make it like Star Trek, Julia likes my joke. So you have that little direction finder, and it's silly, right? I'm making it silly. It's fun. And the beautiful thing is that direction will help you subconsciously and mentally understand, oh, wait, they are over there. I am over here. There's a direction to this feeling. It's not mine. And that will help you to separate. Okay. And then the more Om Japa that we do, so one of the things that you'll find is that when something really bothers you, there's a resonance going on, right? So one tuning fork will attune to another tuning fork, right? The opposite tuning fork will not be disturbed. But if their vibration is making you vibrate, that's because some, not all, but some of what they are vibrating, you are feeling inside of yourself, right? And that's really, really, really good to know, because now I can say, oh, look, this is inside of me a little bit. Like my directional finder, I found it over there. It's not me, but yet a little bit, I can feel some vibration inside of me. Okay, good, good. Okay, so what are you? What are you doing here? And then you pull that up, right? Bring it to conscious level and you ohm into it and you dissolve it and you get the learning, you overcome it. And then little by little by little, you will notice they will be vibrating with that and you don't vibrate. Nope, not going there. Not gonna do it. And now you know, oh my God, this is a different experience. Before, that would set me off. And now it doesn't. I'm not affected. I'm emptied out, right? And that's beautiful. That's progress. That's huge. Then you go home and you write that in your diary and you mark it on your calendar. You say, hallelujah, that didn't bother me. That's awesome. And so that's a very good progression. And so Bhaktinanda talked about this, and he said that he had to start dealing with lots of people, right? He was running the Hollywood Temple, and he would put up a mental glass wall, right? And so he was dealing with other people's energies, and their energies would come and they'd hit the glass wall. You could still see them just fine, but it would bounce off, right? So that was a mental, energetic practice. And then I had a friend, he said, sometimes if you put up a mental wall like that, which is just a visual image or a feeling that you're putting, I'm feeling as if I'm putting up a glass wall, or I'm visualizing I'm putting up a glass wall. But the important part is to feel it, right? And then feel that things are bouncing off of you, right? And then I had a psychic friend, he said, a lot of people are putting up these glass walls, and then the opposite person will grab hold of the glass wall and they will shake you with the glass wall. He said, here's another idea. So I'm putting tools in your toolbox, okay? So these are all good, and you just play with them and you see which one that you like. And so he said, build yourself a bubble, and then people will push on the bubble and it will push right back. It just, and it doesn't matter, you see? And so that was his solution. I really liked that for a long time. I used that for quite a while. And then people can't grab it, right? There's nothing to grab. It's just a bubble. It's just a balloon, right? And then I used that one for quite a while. And then I was doing lots of Kriya, and I felt like I'm the spine. I'm just the spine. I'm only the spine. And I started picturing myself as if I was, and we're also, I was in the Pashulant ashram, so we were doing, you are a non-entity, they would say. You are, empty yourself out and become nothing and become a non-entity. That's the Pashulant routine for monastics. And so very in that line, I said, I'm only my spine. And it was as if I started picturing, I'm just my spine, I'm just my sword. And so I would have other monks, like my manager or somebody, come and yell at me, because nothing was ever perfect, right? And so they'd come and yell at me for whatever reason, and I would just be, I'm just the spine. And so whatever energy they were throwing at me would just be cut and wash off to the side. It never hit me. It went right over or past or through me, but I'm always the same. So I tried that for a while. That was very effective for me. Now, this is really powerful. If you're dealing with somebody that's a real problem, or you're in a room and somebody's energy is really bothering you and you don't want it, this is a really powerful trick. It really, really works. I've done it many times. And that is to feel as if you are a mirror. And I used to visualize this, more so feel. I don't really visualize things, but more so feel. There's some of those Marvel movies, the Wolverine type movies. I'm forgetting like the name. I think it's like the X-Men. That was it. The X-Men. I think it was the second X-Men. And there's one of those guys, and he just becomes steel, and his whole body is, these facets of steel. And so I would picture myself as these facets of mirrors, and everything would just bounce off, right? Everything bounces off of the mirror. That's the point. And so you just hold that feeling as if I am just these, I'm nothing but a mirror. So everything that hits me just bounces off. And that's really, really powerful. And then this was given to me by, again, my psychic friend, very psychic guy, very talented energetically. He said, when somebody is really, really bothering you, here's a way to get them to back away energetically. So there's lots of verbal things that you can do, but this is energetically, and it's in your eyes. And this is super powerful. So, use it sparingly. But he said, you imagine that daggers are coming out of your eyes, and you look at them with daggers in your eyes. So I can smile and I'm still doing it, right? So that's the eye dagger technique. And all these things are nice little things to have in your pocket when you're having a bit of trouble, and then you just throw it out there and you see how you like it. And if you don't like it, you don't keep using it. But if you do like it, you keep using it occasionally. It's kind of a psychic defense kind of technique, which can be very helpful. And what happens eventually, here's more. So I don't know, Pooja and I have talked about this, but a lot of times in a spiritual life, we're like me, I'm very, very concentrated on Divine Mother. And so I get very kind, I get extremely compassionate, and sometimes it's almost too much, right? And then that can lead you into problems in your life. And so I've done a video, don't become a spiritual doormat, right? You don't want to be a spiritual doormat. That's really not spiritual anymore when you're a spiritual doormat, right? And so I would remind myself, oh, wait a minute. I'm imagining that God is just compassion and just kindness, but really God is a lot more holistic. And you look at Kali, and whoo, man, we got some serious energy going on there. Look at Shiva. Whoa, man. And so, if you're having trouble with somebody, call them. Like, they will come and they will go into you. So, call down Kali, come into me. And it's like, whoa, you want to talk to me? Sure, let's talk, and become Kali. And, call in Shiva, God, Shiva will burn up every problem in your life, right? And so you start embodying. There's a reason those pictures are there. They're showing you the fullness of God. And so don't overlook those qualities of the divine. There's kindness. Yeah, there's love. Yeah, that's what the yogi's working on and attuning themselves to. And yet there's this power you don't mess with. And okay. Yeah, good. And so what happens is you play with these things, you embody them a little bit, and they start coming into you, and there's a fullness which comes into you, and you start to display these things subconsciously, and you don't have to do them consciously. It just becomes a part of you. And then you notice that less problems arise. Right. But first of all, we first work on ourselves. That's the first thing. And then second of all, play with all these little, psychic defense things.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will say I was trying to be extremely kind. This person, for instance, had a very, let's say, a dark past. And I've had experiences before with what they call negative entities. I think that influence people, can attach themselves. And so I think that's what I'm dealing with. It was a loud voice shaking me from within to wake me up in the middle of the night. And so this is all good stuff. I think the Kali Shiva thing sounds really good to me. But also, it started to dawn on me doing the contemplation, more like you were talking about before. where you're realizing that these are all, at some level, they are parts of you.
Yeah.
You are the demon who comes after you, so to speak, is a part of your consciousness, and you can, I guess, in the end of the day, would you say you can learn to blunt its effect or control it? Say, just
Oh
go
yeah.
away, don't bother me, I'm done with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's really that's the process of Navi, and the process of facing fear, and you need some of that to face the infinite, right? And so then you can look into uh, the right amygdala, and it's like, oh, there you are. Yeah, what you got to say? What you got? Oh, that's what you got. It's like, oh, you got that's what you got. You know, my guru Ashok would yell at people, and it was not personal. He was not yelling at you to yell at you. He was to be mean. He would get very excited. He wanted you to know exactly what he meant. He was an engineer. He wanted to be very precise. And so he will get very excited and he will yell. And I'm watching him get excited and then yell. And this would scare people away and they wouldn't come back. But I had already been through, I'd been through the ashram. I'd been through a horrible experience with one manager, and then a crazy experience with another monastic manager. So I've been through all of that. And then I did martial arts. And so I had one particularly mean martial artist. He was amazing, which is why I was there. I was learning from him. And yet his personality was over the top, goof, a little bit mean spirited, right? So I've been through all of that. And then Ashok yelled at me and I'm like, yeah, what you got? You got more? You're gonna get, he's like, sure, go ahead. Good. Oh yeah, I got it. I got the point. So just, and that's like looking into fear, right? And, 10 years before, I wouldn't have been ready for that. Oh my God, my guru is yelling at me. I wouldn't have been able to process it. But because of all that, everything I went through, it was like, oh yeah, okay, you got more? You're gonna yell at me some more? Okay. But it was not personal. It was just him. He would get so excited, and he wanted to make sure you really got the point. He's really going to grill it into you. But and then he would surprise me. He'd be so sweet. It would just break my heart. He was so sweet. So, but yeah, that's like looking into that fear. That's the feeling that you get, and you might feel the fear, but then you're like, oh, what you got? What you got? Yeah. What you got? You're gonna destroy my soul? Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. You just it's like, you call the bluff, right? But you can do that because of the Navi and facing all of it and tasting the divine, and you've got all of that inside of you already, and then that eventually that can't be shook.
Well, that's fantastic. I do about an hour of Om Japa a day, so that's on the right path, right?
Yes, love it. Amazing.
Love you, brother. Thank you.
Love you too, Glenn. All right, what we got here? Julia says, also, trauma is stored in the body, and gentle hatha relieves trauma in the body. Absolutely, Julia, absolutely. Do you use brainwaves to wake up in relatively short time? I don't, but I think that sounds wonderful. Yeah. I look up too. So I look up and I look into a nice light. Like if you can look into the sun, your brain is programmed to wake up with the sun. And so if you look into some sunlight, or if you don't have sunlight, if you have a bright light that you can look into, that will help to wake you up. It will actually burn the melatonin up in your brain. And I also look up, because you look up at the sun to wake up, right? And so looking up and looking at a light will help to wake you up. But I'm sure you can listen to some brainwaves that will wake you up. That's very cool. So Wally, that's like Forrest Brand Kavacham. Yes, absolutely. I love that. I love that. That's like, you'll have to explain to everybody Kavacham. Oh yeah, Amber says, have you heard of the white light protection method, Forrest? Sorry I joined so late. No worries. And Yes, yes. White light will do it too. So that's one more tool in your toolbox. Yes, you can imagine that you are only white light. You can imagine you have white light all around you. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely. Yes, weaponized eyes. That's right. Yeah. Amber says, I've also gotten good benefits from giving love to any malevolent forces. Yes, very Buddhist. Beautiful. And so you just, the Buddhist practice is whatever comes, you just bow and say thank you, and then you let it go. Right. And that's kind of beautiful, right? So something comes, oh, thank you. Somebody else, another dark thing comes, oh, thank you. Yeah, sure. And you let it go. You don't worry about it. Absolutely. Very Buddhist. I love that. Yeah, Kavacham, mantra for armor. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, so Jamie says, how is your understanding and that of the Panchanan Bhattacharya lineage different from that of SRF as concerns the role of the physical guru in the life and the afterlife of the Chela? Does receiving Diksha from a guru create a life after life obligation between the guru and the Chela? Some disciples, like Ashok Chatterjee, went to a new guru each time his first guru died. Yeah, that was within the lineage. I believe that was within the lineage that he was in, and so he will go to the next person. It stands to reason that there exist in the lineages descended from Lahiri Mashaya some gurus who are siddhas, and others who are closer to ordinary men. Is there an advantage to choosing a self-realized guru over one who has experienced samadhi but hasn't gone the whole way yet? Can an incorporeal master be a guru for an embodied person? And can a person have one guru and then learn with another, even getting diksha with the second guru without betraying the first guru? Well, if you're worried about betrayal, then I would pray about it and make sure that you are resolved personally. But very often, so what happens to a lot of my students is they tell me, and it's happened so many times, I take it very seriously because it's happened so many times, and it's beautiful. But people will tell me all the time, I prayed to Lahiri Mashaya, and the next day I found you. And that happens enough, you pay attention. And the first day I met Ashok, he told me, and he actually read my mind, because I was looking at him and thinking about him, and I'm thinking, is this my guru? Is this how it's, is this going to work? Is this how it is? And he heard that, and he immediately said, though I didn't put it together at the time, he immediately told me, I'm here to get you to the medulla where you can Google God, and then you will get your answers directly. And this is the true purpose of the guru. And whatever lineage you're in, this is the true purpose, to connect you to God directly. And he said that to me, and I about fell over. So first person that ever told me so perfectly, so humbly, exactly the process. Look, my only job is to get you to the medulla where you can Google God. It just blew me away. Then you will get your answers directly, he told me. And if you think about it, there's this beautiful quote, which I can never perfectly remember, but I always generally remember. And I put it in my first book from the Buddha. He who conquers what he conquered can never be conquered again. When you attain a certain level, wherever you're at, that level of attainment, nobody can ever follow you and attain that again. It's impossible. What the Buddha is saying, there's so many micro choices that led you to the good state, the good things that you have in your life, the good things that you have internally, the deep states that you find in meditation. There are so many choices so many things that you did to create that goodness inside of yourself. Nobody can follow that. So as a teacher, I'm presenting a path. I give you an archetypal path. I teach you the road signs, but I can't. There's no way anybody can hold your hand through all of it. It's impossible. You actually do the work, and it's you doing the work which causes everything. You are the cause of your success. Nobody else. Nobody else is the cause. You and the grace of the higher self, your higher self, God through you, blessing you in your life. That's the cause. You and God, which is you. Which is you. All of that. That's the cause of your success. Nobody else. They can point the way. You know, I'm the tour guide. I'm the Kriya Yoga tour guide. Look over here. Isn't that great? Over here, we got the hugeness. You know, over here, we got the bliss. You know, here we have the, oh, we look at the tower of the spine. Isn't that beautiful? I'm the Kriya Yoga tour guide. That's all I am. I don't do anything. I cannot cause any. I can pray for you. And who am I praying to? I'm praying to the higher self. I'm praying to God. God does the change. You do the change. God does the change through you, not me. That was so clear. It blew me away. I mean, I sat for weeks like John, you know, I sat there for weeks thinking about that. And I'm like, holy guacamole. Nobody ever said it like that to me. Never, 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 never. You know, it was always totally different. And I was in SRF for years and years. And I found, oh my God, I got stories about SRF to curl your hair. And I don't want to tell you those stories because it's a burden. And I don't want to give you that burden. But man, I got stories to curl your hair about everything. And I don't mean just SRF, I mean everyone and everything. I got stories to curl your hair. And so it's a danger to fall into the story. And I'll tell you a horrible story, and I'll make it short. But one of my friends calls me up. We'll call him T. T calls me up. He says, "Oh, you know, me and he goes, oh, there's a guru teaching Kriya, and his name is Mukherjee." And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I investigated. The Kriya's all wrong. It's totally in my very educated Kriya Yoga learning, totally wrong. Okay. And so I'm not interested whatsoever. Right. And, so T is talking to M, who's also an ex-monastic like me. And T almost became a monastic. He was a gardener for SRF forever. So T and M are talking about Mukherjee. M has the money. He's going to fly to Florida and take Kriya from Mukherjee. And T can't do it. He doesn't have the money. So M flies to Florida and he takes Kriya from Mukherjee. And Mukherjee presses really hard on his eyes and he sees the spiritual eye. And he comes back and he then proceeds to beat T over the head in a mocking way. He goes, I have a guru and you don't. I saw the spiritual eye and you don't. And I'm going to become free and liberated and you're not. And T, my friend T, is on the phone with me telling me this. And I'm like, what am I listening to? What are we, 5? What? I was a monastic with this person. Did he forget everything? Did he fall on his head? What happened? I sat there and contemplated this for days. It's like, it really bothered me. I'm like, how could this happen? It was insane. I knew these people. These were relatively good spiritual people, and they were picking at each other. And it's so childish. I'm like, this is, you know, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine it. I couldn't believe it at first, but he kept telling me the same thing. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there in my couch thinking about this. I can't stop thinking about it. And then it dawns on me. He's still stuck in the story. He's in the autobiography of Yogi. He believes everything that he hears. He's in that story, and he's deathly afraid to lose the story because he knew a lot about the secrets like I did, but he couldn't process it enough for whatever reason, and he was still stuck in the story. I'm like, he still wants a big Baba. I'm calling this, and I started calling it the Big Baba syndrome. I got to have the Big Baba on the hill, and he's got to be big, and he's got to have the, display the siddhas and impress me, and, Big Baba syndrome. Don't fall into that, because obviously this person was not working on themselves. He was not doing the work at all. I'm just going to have a Big Baba. They're going to solve all my problems. I don't have to do any of the work. No, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous, right? So don't fall into the Big Baba problem. And and that's what Big Baba syndrome, BBS. Oh my God, Zach, I love it. Yeah, so it's just crazy. It's craziness. It's a craziness. Don't let that Big Baba syndrome take you. And so the Buddhists were very aware of this. And they wrote a book on a koan. The koan is, if you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. What? Nobody kill me, please. So what does that mean? It means that if I project the divine onto somebody else, and I think the divine is out there, and the divine is going to fix me out there, I've given away all my power. I can't do the work anymore. I'm stuck. I'm now at the mercy of the projection that I have outside. The whole program is inside. It's not outside. The outside is great. The outside is a blessing. The outside points the way. It's the tour guide. Go here, go there. Did you see this? Did you notice that? I'll help you negotiate your questions, right? I'll help you negotiate your way into heaven, right? That's my job. But the process is completely internal. Yoga says, I must know for myself. You can tell me all day. I don't care. I gotta, you can tell me about, the Eiffel Tower all day. I don't care. I gotta see it myself. I gotta go. That's yoga. That's the difference. So all this, the Big Baba-ness is crazy, because now you're saying, well, he's going to fix it. He's going to tell me. He's going to do the work. It puts the problem in the wrong place. It has to be an internal process. It has to be an internal realization. And the point of that quote that I told you from Buddha is that you reach this point where you start getting downloads and you start living there. And then you're living at the feet of the true guru. So everybody that you love, everybody that you hold as holy, all those gurus are inside you. And they are, through your higher self, through your connection to the divine, are feeding you continuously. And I remember this started to happen, and I started to live in the download, and it really freaked me out for a while. It's like, wait. So where do I put my feet? Where's the floor? Anybody see the floor lately? I seem to have lost the floor. You kind of lose that. And it was a little shaky there for a while, and then it settled down. Then I was okay. You get used to it. But that continuous download, nobody can replace that. There's nobody anywhere that can replace that. Nobody can. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to replace that. And that's part of what the Buddha is saying, is that there is no one to replace that. That's the state you want. And then you, second to second, and Yogananda talks about this, a second to second guidance starts to happen. And you don't let that freak you out. You can negotiate with God. It's like God says left, you say, but God, but you get what's that guy? Oh, there's that guy with that voice. He's so funny. I can't remember his name, but but maybe, but God, I mean, come on, And so, you can negotiate. It's okay. And God will negotiate with you. And that's okay. So don't let it freak you out. But you get this guidance. You get this understanding all the time. That's what it truly means to be at the feet of the guru. That's an internal state where you are at the medulla and you are getting the download. That's what's so anyway, that is the Panchanan Bhattacharya perspective, that you want to be at the medulla in the download state, and that is my answer. And beyond that, for your question, Jamie, it's a process of prayer and soul searching. So there's that beautiful story where Babaji tells Lahiri Baba, he says, I will come to you at any time. You just ask for me. And there's this understanding that's supposed to be there. And Lahiri Baba doesn't have the understanding. So his friend says, hey, make him appear right now. And Lahiri Baba feels it's wrong. And he does it anyway. And he calls Babaji. And Babaji says, henceforth, I will not come whenever you call. I'll only come when you need me. And so, a beautiful story. What is it saying? It's saying that, what is Babaji in the story reportedly say to Lahiri Baba? He says, I'm not supposed to appear like this. He's supposed to search his heart. That's the process. So beyond my answer, the answer is search your heart. It has to be there. If it's not there, then it's wrong, right? You have to find it in your heart for a real relationship. Otherwise, it's not in your heart, right? It's got to be in your heart. Oh, any comments about Shaktipat? It's real. It really happens. There is a transference. There's a real feeling, and especially when you're attuned. But what happens is people overemphasize it. It has to be this way. It has to look like this, and that's not true. It's just it is whatever it is. When you meet in person, whatever blessing you get, that's where you're at. So it's a product. And gurus will worry about this, and they will try to force it. And I've seen this where people will try to, even in martial systems, they'll try to force an experience on the other person. And I've seen this somebody told me, I went to so-and-so and he pressed so hard on my eyeballs, I thought he was going to damage my eyes. And that's the guru trying to force an experience on the other person. That's it. Oh my God, Ben, Gilbert Gottfried. That's the voice I was trying to. Thank you, Ben. You're the man. Oh my God, that's it. Hilarious. God, come on. Such a voice. Oh my God, it's just like fingernails on a chalkboard, right? It's hilarious. So perfect. Yeah. So yeah, watch out that you want to. So I'm not saying you at all. I'm just saying some people will try to force that you have to have this or you have to have that. No, it's just we're here, we're together, we're attuned. How attuned are you? How spiritually ready are you? And I had a couple come and I touched. So I first did the husband, and the husband only practiced lightly. He did not practice that much, but he saw a big, huge, blazing spiritual eye. And then I touched the wife, and she'd been practicing heavily. And she goes, so we finish, and she goes, she's kind of like this, right? And she goes, everything disappeared. I'm like, everything? She's like, yeah, my body, the park, everything disappeared. And I was just in the stars. I'm like, you had a samadhi? She goes, is that what that is? I'm like, yeah, that's a samadhi. She's like, yeah, I've been having those every once in a while. I'm like, wow, oh my God. And I'm like, you didn't think to bring it up and say, hey, I'm having this experience? It's like, oh, I thought it was beautiful. And I just didn't. I'm like, that's a samadhi. That's a samadhi, dear. Good job. Well done. And yeah, so I didn't think, I spiritual life, sure. Bliss, sure. Yeah, happens a lot. Samadhi, I didn't think that was possible. in a just sitting, I didn't think that was possible, but that was her. That was not me. I'm the tour guide. So what is the square breathing good for? The square breathing is a good training for your breath. So you breathe in for a set amount. You hold the breath for a set amount. Then you breathe out, same set amount. Then you hold the breath for the same amount, right? So that's a box, right? That's box breathing. Buddhists use a lot of box breathing. Good discipline. What we do in Kriya Yoga is more of a, see if I can do it, a triangle. It looks more like a heart, right? But it's a triangle. So we breathe in, hold, breathe out. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Right? So that's a triangle. So I would recommend that because when you hold the breath at the bottom, it will magnetize your lower spine. You don't want that in the beginning. You want to magnetize the upper spine. Therefore, breathe in and hold. It's a better hold in the beginning. And then later, after a year of Om Japa in the chakras, yeah, sure. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Great. Beautiful discipline. What's it good for? HRV resonance and blood pressure variability resonance. Those two things. And that's in my first training, the Tranquil Breath training. I talk a lot about what those are and why those work. And they're beautiful. They're amazing. Absolutely. But I would recommend a triangle just so you don't over magnetize the lower spine at first until you've done like a year of the Om Japa in the chakras. I had one big Baba burn my skin with cinnamon oil, giving Shaktipat. Wow. Yeah. There's the big Babas. Big Babas. Gotta love them. Big Babas. Gotta love them. Now, there's some big Babas that are, some are real. Some are real. And even if they're not that real, maybe they have a spiritual connection or some kind of power or some kind of blessing on them, so they can be helpful. You don't know. So not to judge, just watch out. I just watch out if we're in myself, the big Baba syndrome, right? That's what we want to watch out for, that it gets a hold of me. AJ, oh, this is the one, I didn't look this up. Yeah, I need to look up that yoga, AJ, so I know exactly. And then Amy says, I was wondering if you had any insights to share about the connection between the early Catholic Church and yoga. I know that's a broad question, but since I have been staying in Italy for the past 2 months, I have been wondering about the spirituality, about the early church. I have been exploring the churches and practicing Hakala and the angel exercise when I'm in these churches, and it's been a wonderful experience. I can definitely feel the spiritual energy. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, the very early Christians, it was a bad name that they were calling them, and the Christians adopted it. They said, that's fine. You can call us Christians. We like that. And so they turned it around. So it was, they were calling them, you're just a Christian, right? It was a negative term, and they turned it around. They said, yeah, I'm a Christian. And so I tell the story that one of my friends was very, very close to an old priest who was near the time of his death. And the priest opened up to him and he said, I was quite high up in the church. And when you get high to a certain degree, you choose which part of the church you're going to be in contact with, and what category you're going to fit into. And he was always interested in philosophy. And so they gave him access to the secret library, not the one that's online. That's not real. The real secret library. And he went in there, and he had a nervous breakdown. He said there were over 100 books on the life of Christ, but they had picked the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church. The Romans had picked 4 books that mentioned that Jesus Christ was the only begotten Son of God, which would deify Christ. So he picked the books that weren't Christ as the teacher, but as Christ as the only begotten Son, right? So in order to attempt to deify Christ, which is what they did. And so that would offer a new religion, which is what they did. So that was the Roman Church that did that. And so that's part of the Catholic Church today. So are there beautiful things there? Absolutely. Absolutely. And can you feel that energy? Absolutely. And, you know, there's so many. So beyond the political Catholic Church, there's the people who are in it. And those people are quite amazing. And they are experts at prayer. And prayer is a left amygdala practice. So when you're praying and you get an answer, that's a process through the left amygdala primarily. So the right hippocampus will echo and feed the left amygdala, but the prayer process is happening most directly through the left amygdala. So it's a left amygdala process. It's very heavy in the left amygdala. And they're just experts. They're just absolute experts at it. And so you can learn a lot from listening to them. Or listening to, I love studying. So who are my favorite saints? Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint Clare, the students of Saint Francis, and then you have Saint Teresa of Lisieux and Saint Teresa of Avila. And there's then John of the Cross as well. But those are my favorites. And studying them or other people that you admire like that is just amazing. And you start to see some of what you're doing in what they were doing. And that's kind of amazing. So yeah, all worthwhile. And there's just so many people that pass through these sacred sites and they're sitting there praying and that vibration stays behind and you feel that. You can't deny it, right? It's amazing. Amazing. So if you're, oh, by the way, didn't I tell you to check out St. Francis? I hope you checked him out. I hope you liked it. So, oh God, Julia, excuse me. I almost missed your question. Julia, I have a question in me about difficulties in life. If a person encounters tough situations in life, hatred by his or her peers, loss of material things, and so on, are they always signs of past karma, past bad karma, or can be tougher lessons because the person is more advanced spiritually to further his or her development? Thank you. Looking forward for the satsang tomorrow. That's a interesting question. And yeah, it's not quite correct to say that you've got so I would never say that you have extra karma because of your spiritual practice. I would say that the spiritual practice is clearing all of it out of you. And so along the way, you'll notice new things, which you then get to clear. And again, if it's uncomfortable, double, triple, quadruple down on the Om Japa and the Navi to help clear everything so that the learning comes faster and the lessons, you can get through them more easily. But otherwise, yes, it's karma. But I would also say that life is just damn hard, right? And this is kind of how I hold it, that life is really, really hard. And that's just the nature of the beast, that it is very hard. And we're just trying to pull out as much sanity and relaxation and love and joy out of our lives as we possibly can. And there's a beautiful story that maybe can help to understand what I'm trying to say. This monk was driving down the road and another car came. And while he was in the car, he's chanting, Divine Mother, I love you. Divine Mother, I love you. Divine Mother, I love you, right? as he's been instructed to do. He keeps chanting to Divine Mother, right? Practicing the presence of Divine Mother. And so he's going down the hill in LA, and another car comes and he has to swerve, and he swerves off the road, and the car falls off the road. He goes down, car is destroyed, and he lives. And he walks out and he goes to Yogananda. He says, "Sir, I was practicing the presence of God, and you said nothing bad can befall us while we're practicing the presence of God, and yet I had this car accident. I was practicing the whole time." And Yogananda goes, "Yeah, you're alive. If you hadn't been chanting to Divine Mother, you'd be dead right now." He's like, "Oh, thank you." Noted. Yes. Okay. Now it makes total sense, right? So when life is bad, just imagine it could have been worse. And if your understanding wasn't there, if your realization wasn't there, well, it definitely would have been worse, right? And if your connection to the divine was not there, then yeah, it could have been worse. And that's how I like to see it. I think that's very helpful, that life is just really, really hard. If you look back, if we look back 200 years, none of us would probably all be dead.
Oh, yeah.
It's, what's that? No worries. So if we look back 200 years, no worries, Zach. If we look back 200 years, how many of us would still be alive? I think the age expectancy was so low. You'd get married as soon as you could, so you could have kids, and maybe some of those kids would live. It was just brutal. And here we are in this day and age, and everything's so much easier, and yet troubles come along and it still hurts. That's normal, right? But if we can awaken some gratitude and think about how much tougher life could have been if it wasn't for these practices in my life. There are many things. Yeah. There's many things in my life. There's no way I could have gotten through them without my spiritual practice. Like I would have lost my mind, or, I would have been a broken person afterwards. I can't imagine my life without the yoga. So as you advance up the spine, you are solving riddles. This is how I like to see it. When you're advancing up the spine, you are solving riddles. And those riddles of life are hard to unravel. And it's not something you can just think about and come to a conclusion. These are deep, embedded psychological processes which are taking place that we are unraveling by the power of Om Japa and the low idle state, and getting in touch with the upper nervous system and the higher self. You're unraveling things which for most people are unravelable. Can't say that. They are not able to unravel any of it. You are unraveling those things. You are unraveling these core riddles of life. And that is very hard to do, but you are doing it. And then after you've solved the riddle, even if you haven't finished, if you just, start the process, your life gets that much easier. It doesn't mean it's easy. It just means it's not a bed of roses. It's just that much easier. And the blessing that's on you with that. So, Julia, beautiful question. Sergio, what is the relationship or difference? Oh, Julia, I'm so glad. I hope that helps. Sergio, what is the relationship or difference between the roll up into the medulla and the first knot? Well, the first knot is a pole. It's just a pole to the spiritual eye. You're not you're not necessarily rolled up, even though you have energy pulling, and that pulling will help the roll up come up the spine. So that's what you're feeling, is that some of that pull is pulling me upwards. And then excuse me, it can be that you are pulled up and rolled up, and you feel the spiritual eye at the same time. Absolutely. So they can be together, or you might feel them as separate. Love for Julia from Julia. We have two Julias. Now I have to say Julia with a G and Julie with a J. And that's it. We did, oh my God, we did 2 hours, 17 minutes. Any last question? I hope this recorded. I'm trying something new, so I hope it, hope it records. So we'll give it a shot. Any last questions? Anything at all? Oh, Ben, please.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Wonderful satsang for us, G.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, when doing the cute baby meditation, I visualize one of my critters, and it feels good. And then I wondered, do I let go of the picture and hold the feeling, or just kind of be with the feeling, then move to the next picture? Do you put like a, does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. You can let go of the picture and just hold the feeling. And then, so it's at that point you get to pick, what should I do? Should I bring up the picture again? Or should I just hold the feeling? If you can just hold the feeling, just hold that. And if the picture arises again, that's fine. And if you bring up the picture again and it keeps lifting up your heart again, that's fine. But when you feel like you can't hold it anymore, then let it go. And then you can bring up the same picture or a different picture again, and then hold it again. But yeah, you can let go of the picture and just hold the feeling. That's very good.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. I love it. I love Cute Baby. I love that you're practicing it. It's extremely powerful. Oh, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Rudra. Thank you, Pooja. Well, I love you guys. Any last question? No? All right. Well, I love all of you, and you have a wonderful weekend. And I'm super, super proud of you guys. You just thrill me with everything that you do and the continuous practice that you do. I can see it in you. I can see it in your eyes and your face, and I love it. And I'm super, super proud of all of you. So, oh, thank you, Madhvi.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Huge hugs. God bless. Bye-bye.